We live? You said we're live?
Not yet.
Mr. Becker, we're live.
Okay, welcome everybody. I turn the meeting over to Board President Tim Vogt.
I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I just want to let the public know that we had an executive session. We actually had two of them, one for personnel and one for legal advice. At this time, can we have a roll call, please?
Cindy Brassington.
Here.
Drew Hampton.
He's not here.
Oh, he's not here. Josh Hoagland.
Here.
Greg Klebon.
Here.
Brianna Majeski.
Present.
Josh Majeski.
Here.
Tony Serafini.
Here.
Tim Vogt.
Here.
Eli Yenzel.
Here.
8 members present.
The agenda hearing period. At this time, the purpose of the agenda hearing period is to permit residents in the audience to make statements to the board of directors on action items on the agenda. There was one update that was just updated to the agenda. So at this time, we'll wait a few minutes, and I don't know, do you have any comments on any of the action items, Jim?
That's what I have to get to the comments.
And that was
Mr.
just
Becker, at this time, there are no comments.
Mr. Davis, can you read the comments for us as they come up for me? That would be great.
I can. At this point, there are no comments.
I think it would behoove us to wait just a few minutes based on the fact that we just did add an agenda item.
and that was fiscal item C.
But what we could do is move right into the superintendent's report, and if any, before we go any farther after the superintendent's report, if any come in, we can address them at that time. So, Jim, if you want to.
Sure, let me get on here, if you don't mind. Okay, well, first thing our superintendent report is a cheerleading national competition to Texas. Coach Kendra Roth is here, if she would like to speak about the cheerleading trip.
Okay, we are asking, hopefully everybody had received the letter that we wrote with the parents. This would be the third year that we're asking permission to go. This is a very senior heavy team that would like the opportunity to go and try to finish what they came so close to last year. We came within 1.6 points of winning a national title last year. We understand that we have to raise all the funds ourselves, like we've done in the past. We have 12 girls on the team, and there are 21 parents and 2 coaches that would like to also make the trip, so there's definitely plenty of supervision for the girls. I've been in constant contact with the organization. As of right now, they are planning on holding the competition with lots of safety measures in place. We stay at the convention center where the competition is held, so we don't even have to leave the building, during that time, which to me makes things a little bit safer for the girls, that they're not out wandering around or doing anything like that. But last year, they came within less than 2 points of winning a national title, and they would really like an opportunity to try to finish that goal. We qualified by receiving a bid this summer from camp, and that's based on their ability and their skills and stuff like that. But on my squad of 12, I have 8 seniors this year. So we're just asking for your support to be able to make this and give them some normalcy and opportunity to finish something that they started training for a long time ago. I have several kids on this team that are chasing scholarships for college. This is a good place where they can be showcasing their talent. There's a lot of college coaches that go to competitions like this to be able to watch and be recruiting kids. So it's just an opportunity for them to get those scholarships too that they so much would like to have to be able to continue at the next level.
Does anybody have any questions for Kenda? I know it's a motion item tonight.
This is in January, is that correct?
Yes, it's like the third week of January. We would leave on a Thursday, and compete Saturday and Sunday and come home on Monday.
And it's in Texas, right?
In
That's what
Dallas,
you said?
yes.
So-
Mhm. And I know that they've been taken off the quarantine list. Texas is off of there now. And parents would be more than willing to sign waiver forms, releasing anybody from anything. I mean, if it's the wish of the district that they would quarantine, the girls do not have a problem with that. All these kids are honor students, and, they would be willing to do whatever you would want so that they do not, cause any issues for anybody at the school at all.
But my only concern or question would be if Texas goes back on the list, if we see a resurgence, right? Then if they're required to quarantine, what does that look like from a district standpoint if we approve them to go on a trip and now they have to quarantine? With SoCo Live, they would still be able to come attend school, right?
That's the best scenario out of all this. That if something would happen that they don't have to quarantine, they could still log on every day, do all their work with the SoCo Live.
These kids can even do their work while we're there
Yeah.
because
Correct,
of that, opportunity this year.
We just need to take an action to make this an excused absence or not, correct?
Right,
And to
with
approve the
board
trip.
approval, if they're going out of state, an overnight trip, we have to approve it. So that's the approval we're looking for tonight, to allow them to go on this trip.
Right, and in the absence of an alternate model for delivery, if they were quarantined because of the trip that we approved, and they couldn't come to school, would they be held accountable for those days out of school, or would they count as that? Like, that was my question, so it should be a moot point, right?
Right.
Regardless, whether they go back on the list or not, we will have a delivery model where they can be at home if need be and still be in school.
We're gonna ask them to quarantine regardless.
Maybe I'll probably be specific based on January.
I mean, I'm guessing they're gonna cancel this event. If something springs up, they're not gonna have
Correct,
it.
and I've been in contact with them on a regular basis, because obviously I'm a little nervous about booking airline tickets when it could be. And according to them, they are planning on holding it unless the government shuts it down, which, then obviously they would abide by that.
This is Greg Clubon. I make a motion that we approve the trip.
Well, it'll come, Greg. It's an agenda item for tonight under
Okay,
items policy. So we'll get to it.
okay. I thought we were voting on it now.
Oh, you can make it then.
Okay, anything else? Okay, the next thing is COVID learning model updates and discussion. I was on the on a virtual call with Department of Ed and Department of Health today. And as expected, our COVID numbers for the county have dropped significantly. Right now, our incident rate per 100,000 is 26, which puts us in a moderate range. Our percent of positivity, what actually kept us in substantial last week, has actually fallen so much that it's in the low range at this point. So Columbia County is moving into the moderate threshold. So I think a discussion about, changing the learning model we can have. I'd like to recommend bringing the kids back. What I was thinking is possibly as early as Thursday. Tomorrow we have a hybrid day. Wednesday we have a full virtual day. And then, which our teachers are doing synchronous and asynchronous learning with the kids. And then they use a little bit of that extra time to get ready. I would really like to have that, give the teachers, afford them that time, that Wednesday, again, for planning, preparation. We can do the double cleaning that day. And then also to get ready for bringing the students back to full in-person on Thursday. I mean, I know we talked about doing hybrid all this week, but that was just an option I was thinking. Just a a clarification. I know when we went hybrid last week, there was a lot of people that were upset that we're still staying hybrid, which I understand. And one of the, people that are listening, I hope everyone knows that these decisions aren't made hastily. They're made with a lot of thought. A lot of things are considered. So, we aren't making these decisions easily or without great thought. I know some of the thought is talking about some other schools and what they're doing. Some other schools in our county, I know, Bloomsburg stayed what they consider as full in person. Central stayed full in person. I know Bloomsburg has a strong number of students that are in virtual. Central does too, not as strong as Bloomsburg, but Central does too. So they were kind of understanding that with strong numbers, they were looking at, almost possibly being hybrid. I know this is Bloomsburg talking when they were about 70% in person. It's close to the hybrid at 50%. So that's why they weren't, necessarily willing to move. They had a greater number of online learners. Our attendance here at Southern, when they were talking about 70%, our attendance the first couple of weeks at Southern, high school wise, it was close to 90%. Elementary was in the 83%, and middle school was 84, 85%. So, which is great because our kids were attending. But again, it's probably one of the reasons will let us to go to hybrid is, to cut down back on our numbers. With the way the COVID numbers are in the county now, I feel comfortable with going back to full in person. Just to clear some of those concerns up, why we were doing certain things and others weren't.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Becker?
One of the things, if I can continue talking a little bit, which we can maybe have a little discussion regarding this. One of the things is if you talk to any of our teachers, they're struggling a little bit with time. They are planning for both in-person and virtual lessons, which again, when you're doing it, when you're not looking from the outside, looks like it shouldn't be all that much, but it is a great undertaking by some of our teachers. So I know we are looking at, a number of different things, checking our hours and doing some possible schedule moves and calendar moves. I know some other local schools, like Bloomsburg, is doing a virtual Friday up until I think Thanksgiving. Central's looking at adding some days.
Columbia County.
In Central Columbia, looking to use some days in the calendar for Act 80 days. Now Carmel has cut their days short a little bit to give their teachers some time. Shamokin has cut their day Fridays short a little bit. Mount Carmel, My Mountain is looking at 2-hour delay Mondays. So we're considering, looking at possible schedule change. Our situation with our 990 hours, or hours that we need for our kids, is a little different. In our high school hours, we're close. With our way our schedule is, we're right about 1,013 hours, which only gives us about 20 hours to play with. So we hit that 990. Elementary, we're fine with hours because they only have to go to 900. So we're looking at multiple options of what we can do, and I think would lead to a discussion here at the board level.
Mr. Becker, I've heard from some people from other districts outside the area who have done like a virtual Wednesday. There's been some success with that. It's enabled them to do some deep cleaning throughout the building while allowing the bargaining unit teaching staff to have the planning time that they need. Because you're exactly right. Not only are they planning for the in-person side of things, but they're also learning how to almost in a way reinvent their entire teaching practice. So it is sort of double duty, and I think providing them with a little bit of additional planning time would probably be appropriate.
I know we're kind of doing those virtual Wednesdays now in the hybrid. Looking, like I said, Bloomsburg is doing the virtual Fridays, and it really seems to be working. Talk with Dr. Wheeler from Bloomsburg. It's really working well for them on Fridays. Seems to work better with the parents too on Fridays. I know Central Columbia is looking at doing those Act 80 days on Fridays as well.
I think as long as we give people enough notice, to arrange for childcare and all that, I think it would be a win-win.
Exactly.
Has there been any discussion with teachers about dedicating in the elementary unit one teacher to handling the virtual students? I know some feedback I've heard from teachers is they're looking constantly between the computer to try and help their virtual students, and then back to the class that they're in person, and they're feeling like they're not getting 100% to either group. One of the things that would necessitate would be more students in a room. You have 4 out of 5 teachers handling it all in person. Has there been any thought to that?
There has been some talk, and I've talked with Mr. Fetterman. I've actually approached some of the teachers in the actually K1, 2 areas, and about a split on what they have. Some want to keep what they have. Some are okay with doing that type of thing, but it was more of a split down the middle. So that's absolutely an avenue we can investigate further and possibly pull the trigger on, which would then alleviate some of the planning for them. It will increase the class size by a couple people each classroom. But, I think could be done with a little bit of investigation and work.
That wouldn't necessarily be consistent across grade because you have some kids on SoCo Live and some kids not, so.
Right, I think it would be more of a K-3 type of thing, I would think. What, 4th grade's a little bit of compartmentalized, and then once you get to 5th, 6th, 7th, again, departmentalized up through high school.
I think that it's important that we consider this request for meaningful planning time. One thing I think that if we are able to alter our schedule to afford that is that we really engage the teachers about, what are their asks and their needs once they've had the opportunity. I mean, they're obviously planning now, but are there silly barriers in the way that could be decanted elsewhere? For example, I know I talked to you last week about, HART hasn't been active this year because of the visitor regulations. Normally there's a class parent who organizes parties. We're not having parties this year, but parents can run copies. I mean, my kids bring home a foot-tall stack of paperwork on Friday for the next week. Teachers shouldn't be wasting their planning time running copies and stapling packets when anybody can do that. I think if you have a willing and consistent volunteer, there's still, minimal time in the building, and it would be a great help for those teachers. Some communication that we received like this afternoon that I was reading on the way home from work was about, especially in these younger grades, we use manipulatives to learn and to do things. And I know I brought it up at a curriculum meeting earlier in June and have brought it up with you a little bit. Donors Choose or some other platform. I mean, I have friends that teach kindergarten in other parts of the country who anticipated what these needs were going to be in the spring and over the summer, and had magnetic letters and numbers for their kids. They had a whole packet that they could give to each of their students that they were able to get through kind of crowdfunding like that. And it's not that our teachers didn't anticipate those needs, it's that we don't have a platform right now. And a lot of times people get really huffy about all the money that goes to athletics. And I think it's because the athletics will tell you what they need and ask for it. I don't think for some of these educational needs, we have the platform for that. I know there was concern with Donors Choose about maybe this has been done in the past, and there were some issues with teachers. And again, my response to that is if there's a teacher problem, you discipline the teacher, but we shouldn't all suffer from losing out on a potential opportunity to make this situation a little more bearable and a little more meaningful for maybe some of these students who don't have some of the things at home that they can work with. So I really think that it's important and it's great to try and find more time, But we really need to make sure that the teachers are also letting us know about how we can really maximize that time and make it meaningful. Beyond just, not having kids on a Teams meeting for some period of time so that they're able to focus on the planning.
And we do have a copy center in the high school where some of our students are making copies as well. I did talk to Mr. Fetterman about possibly bringing some HART volunteers in who already have clearances and stuff, who are willing to make copies, so I know he's investigating now.
Great.
To help maximize that time.
Great.
Does the district need to do something with donors choose to make that happen? Is that?
I think they need a board.
I have the
Need to
information,
encourage it.
yeah. It's more, I think the individual teacher has to sign up for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, absolutely.
I think where the donors choose thing, issues in other schools and stuff like that had more to do with the technology and whether a school could support the technology they were requesting. That was my
Yeah.
take on that, is that if, because we have certain platforms and
Sure.
what were they asking for, if we could support it, that was the
Yeah.
only thing I had
As
heard.
far as I understand, I think the principal sees the project before it goes live. Because I know I was thinking, I had a conversation last year with a teacher about having an Alexa for centers, students could talk to Alexa, and ask questions while teachers with somebody else. There's a lot of this stuff that's really kind of low-hanging fruit. We just don't give the community the opportunity to engage us in that way, and I think that it could be really valuable this year.
Jim, do we have any other discussion time on this? Right now, it's just for Q&A time.
Let's get it done now.
But one of the things that's become apparent to me is through the community feedback, they think that we're taking a vote every week, every 2 weeks, on whether or not what the learning model is. And so, they start to question, why is the board voting to do X? And the truth is, we haven't voted to do anything. We're trying to give Mr. Becker good feedback, but, we sort of put that in his lap. I feel pretty strong that we ought to be taking a public position in owning this decision, except in more of an emergency case. For instance, if we have a couple cases pop up and Jim needs to take action immediately, we can't wait 3 days to advertise a special board meeting. So I think we ought to be changing the parameter that we have him operating a little bit and saying, hey, there's an emergency, go make that call. If we need to go hybrid, if we need to shut the school for 3 days, be all virtual because we have, multiple cases in a week, that's a different situation than if we don't have any cases. And so that's what I wanted to bring up to the board. I think we owe it to the community to be the face behind this decision. Because it's a big decision. It's arguably the biggest decision the board takes is to shut the school down or change that learning model from what it's been.
Yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment. I mean, I don't know what we need to do if we even wanted to do that, because the board did vote to approve the health and safety plan, which included direction to the administration on parameters related to those decisions. And then we took an additional vote after that to give the superintendent the authority to alter that at will. So, I mean, we voted to give him that authority because he asked for it.
Mhm.
So if we wanted to undo that, do we have to, I don't know what the wording for any of that would even be if we were going to do that.
If you were going to give me any authority to shut it down in an emergency, I would still need some of that authority.
Well, I mean, you could, my understanding is you are responsible for the safety and security of the school and everybody here. So within that, we don't need permission from us to say we're not coming in tomorrow because of a positive case. Like that's well within your authority.
I think if it's an emergent situation, it almost falls under the same category as a snow day or a tornado day or whatever it is. But I think what Josh is saying, that we're balancing a fine line between doing the easiest thing and doing the thing that meets the needs of our community. And it's very important to me that I'm able to meet the needs of the community. I'm sure Josh would agree with me. Like, we get a lot of community feedback on that topic.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yes. from all sides. So, I don't have a problem with the board owning it, like personally, I don't have a problem taking a vote every week if we want to change something. It's just, is that something we want to consider as not on the agenda?
Well, what do you propose?
I would make a motion, if I can make a motion at this time, for consideration, if that's something I can do at this time.
Yeah, and then we'll have an agenda hearing period and.
So what I would suggest is I would make a motion to require board vote to switch from in-person to hybrid or virtual learning effective September 28th. That'd be next Monday, with the exception of if there are 2 or more cases in a week, we will continue to allow the superintendent to go hybrid or virtual for up to 3 days at his discretion until such time as a special board meeting can be advertised and held.
Is that in line with what the DOH would do with that case level?
I think 2.
So I think there was a slot of if you have 1, and then I believe the next slot was 2 to 5.
Yep.
And that's where I came up with that number of 2. So in that 2 to 5 slot.
What's in our plan? I mean,
Right now, we're at hybrid on the plan because we changed it.
no, but I mean, what
Moved
if,
to hybrid, so.
because we voted on the plan already,
Right,
correct?
right.
What authorities are in the,
Well, then
Plan.
the board gave me the authority to make the change,
okay.
so.
And just to be clear for the community, I don't think this would have changed where our learning model was the last couple of weeks or this week. And so this isn't something to try and override giving the superintendent at all. I just want to be clear that, I think this is something that we need to really own as a board instead of sort of putting that all on his shoulders, absent cases. Just because it adds a little more weight to it than when you evidently have an immediate issue with multiple cases in a week.
What do we need to do with the health and safety plan if we put any of those words in this motion related to numbers and cases? Because we were legally required by PDE to submit a health and safety plan that said what we would do in all the different cases with all the different columns on this form and that form.
Right.
It
The biggest
took you
thing
guys
is
some
changing
time
your
to fill
learning
out.
model. We have it before, we've had full in person and we switched to hybrid, and I sent it to PDE. But if that changes it, then I think we'd have to have a board motion to change it
To amend the health and safety plan, or
to.
you have the authority to amend the health and safety plan?
We can amend the health
now,
and safety plan,
Without
but then it would have to be, the health and safety plan would have to be approved by you guys and then sent to PDE.
I thought you have the authority to amend the health, and that was the
You
second
gave me
vote,
that
was-
authority.
Was you can change it as necessary,
Yes,
and that's the delivery model decision-making up to this point has been under that authority as well.
Yes.
So if we were to just restrict your ability to decide on transitions to different delivery models, does that change the health and safety plan?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean,
I don't see it as
I don't
either,
think
so. So as long as you don't include case counts in the motion, like, as long as it's just the board has to vote for a change. But if you,
Yeah.
otherwise it countermands the health and safety plan, which has the same type of language, only possibly different numbers. And or we could do what you said,
Right.
with the numbers in there, and then you could unilaterally amend it because you already have that authority, I guess. Is that, Carl's kind of shaking his head.
Yeah, I'm okay with what Josh put out. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna track it because they've had us like re-voted on it 3 or 4 times. Is anybody even looking at this stuff?
I have no idea.
I mean, each district has to make what's best decision for its community, so I'm okay with the motion.
My thought with including the number was to tie it to the health and safety plan. Hey, when you hit that 2 cases in a week per the health and safety plan, he still has the authority to act quickly and make that call because we can't get the public meeting advertised and held within 2 or 3 days. And we shouldn't be sitting here with 2, 5, 10 cases because we need a vote. So that's all I was doing with the case numbers, to make it clear, hey, when you do get 2 cases in a week under the health and safety plan, he can make that call to switch models until we get a meeting in place.
We're not really usurping his power necessarily, then we're just taking an affirmative stance on where the board stands on the learning model.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I want to make that very clear, you know, it's not,
I mean, essentially this is what we've done up to this point, it's just been by consensus versus an actual vote.
Yeah.
yes, and for right now, you know, we can all give him our opinion privately, but there's no public back into it, he doesn't have to follow it, and so the public doesn't know, like, where the board really stands, because we're not taking an affirmative position.
Could you restate your motion?
Thank you.
You remember it.
All right.
Can you send it to her in a text message so she can copy it down?
A motion to require a board vote to switch from in-person to hybrid or virtual learning, effective September 28th. With the exception of if there are 2 or more cases in a week, we will allow the superintendent to go hybrid or virtual for up to 3 days at his discretion until a special board meeting can be advertised and held.
Should I get his tablet?
Hmm?
Should I get his tablet? Is it
Is it
written down?
written down?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, that would be good, because
Extra
sometimes
tablet
I
over this way.
Yeah.
and that would be a policy and programs, right?
I think
Yes, yes. Mr. President, Mr. Davis has 2 questions.
Yep.
Easy balance, yeah.
Does anybody else, before we move on to those, does anybody else have anything for Mr. Becker? In the superintendent's report. All right, let's move to the agenda hearing. Have you got some?
So there's a motion on the floor. I'll second the motion.
Well, are we gonna,
So
Do it that-
he made the motion, so,
Yeah, so if he makes the
Okay.
motion.
I second it.
Okay.
So
So now he should.
now it's up. So
Now we
I
have-
recommend now we do agenda hearing period, including this,
Include that.
and then we can have board discussion if there's any more on it, and then we can vote and then move on to
Okay.
other things, if that sounds reasonable.
Well, while we're waiting for anybody to comment on this, let's go over the 2 questions that you have.
Okay, Mr. Davis.
Question number 1 is from Michael Lester of the Press Enterprise. Can the board explain why it is looking to hire the Levine Legal Group? Is this related to the federal lawsuit filed by the parents of the suspended football player? What hourly rate would the district pay this firm?
Do you want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
This is Carl Beard, the solicitor. The answer is yes to question number 1. And number 2, I don't have the engagement letter in front of me. But I guess if you call in tomorrow, they'll tell you, or somebody will call you later tonight, because I just don't have it.
Question number 2 is from Jen Rarig of Roaring Creek Township. Would it be possible to have Friday instead of Wednesday as a day off, the day off virtual day?
We're actually considering that. I know other schools are looking at Fridays as well. We're doing Wednesdays now because it's in the middle, it splits between the alphabet. But if we're going full in person, a Friday is a possibility.
And Mr. Vogt, Mr. Becker, at this time, that's all the comments or questions there are.
Need to take a vote.
All right, in the discussion for what's on the floor right now for this motion, I have a question. So the decision on which day, if any, we return to full in person, but we're gonna take a day or half a day for full virtual, where everybody's virtual. Is that the board's, under this new approach, is that still your decision, or is that the?
I think it's his.
I think so too. It's just whether we're full-time or not is the board, the way it's worded.
So your question is, if full-time switches to 4 days in school with a 5th day that's, you know, half or full day virtual, is that the superintendent's?
Is that his decision for the partial day, or is that still the board?
I think that's something the board ought to take action on. That'd be a change in the learning model from what it was.
So are we gonna vote on changing this authority to hours and then also vote on the new learning model, or?
I would think
You
so,
have till
yeah.
the 28th to implement something that then
No, I think we need to take a vote on changing the learning model today.
What I envision is step one is simply just who is going to make the call I'm saying a non-emergency case, or, you know, sort of what we're operating under now. We have a lot of cases around us, but none here. You know, there's very clear guidelines on when to send classes home into quarantine because of cases in school. We didn't hit that, but we had a lot of cases around the community. So my intent is, the motion is, hey, if it's not because there's cases in here, we gotta have a discussion and you know, give him authority to switch what it looks like to do school. So that would be a separate action, is what I'm thinking.
So does somebody want to make a motion?
But, so there's already a motion and a second, and we got to vote on it one way or another, but, or table it. And that motion had the 28th in it, right? So anything that happens before then is still Jim's discretion, as the motion is right now. So do you want to amend the motion to make it as of tonight, or do you want to allow, I mean, I don't think he's going to go rogue if we tell him.
What?
Right?
No, look, my thought on the motion was I said the 28th because there was something announced for this week.
Sure.
I'm certainly open to changing what it is this week, but I think we could still discuss and do that separately if we wanted.
So there's a motion and a second. I move to amend the motion to change the date of the 28th to whatever today is, the 21st.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Now we vote on the amendment.
We have to have an agenda hearing period before we vote on this, Carl.
Since you amended it, yeah.
So can I say this? In the virtual reality of this, there's been a motion and a second. Can we put that in the policy and programs where it is and vote on it at the time it becomes available in the board? And if that time there are questions on this, we can address them as the agenda hearing period question. Before we would vote on it in policy and programs, we will look to see if there are any more comments.
The way we've done it right now, there's two votes that need to occur.
Right.
Approve the amendment
And then
the actual motion.
Then the actual motion.
Okay.
Mr. Vogt, there are 3 more comments.
All right, we'll take those comments and then maybe we can move forward with the vote.
The 3rd comment is from Nate Richard, Cleveland Township. Our students need all the normal available time in the classroom for instruction and learning. They are falling behind as it is, wasting a few more hours. Every day isn't going to help. There's plenty of time after school for planning. The day ends by 3 o'clock. That's Nate Richards, Cleveland Township. Comment 4 is from Michelle Richards, Ralpho Township. With regards to the discussion of virtual kids, I would not be in favor of altering the current structure. My son is full-time virtual and has already bonded with his teacher in class, even though he is virtual. He is doing well. I'm not in favor of moving him to another teacher or class structure. The reason that we chose virtual was so that he could feel part of his class and part of a community. Please do not consider an alternative that is closer to cyber, as this is not an option that would work for our son. I have volunteered to make copies for virtual kids in my son's class, if emailed to me, and help manage any online education. I will help in any way if needed to lessen the impact of the classroom teacher. Again, that's from Michelle Richards, Ralpho Township. Comment 5 is from Dawn Knoble, Ralpho Township. As president of HART, I volunteer to come in and help the teachers with whatever needs done. At this point, Mr. Vogt, that's all the comments.
Can I ask you a clarifying question, because I'm thoroughly confused right now? So when we vote on this, are we committing to these Fridays off right now?
No.
Oh, okay.
So the motion as amended says, as of tonight, if we pass it, Mr. Becker no longer has the authority to make the decision on delivery model except in emergency situations.
Okay.
And then the board has to, so that means we stay hybrid as we are until we vote to not be hybrid.
Right.
Which could also be tonight.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so
So we have to vote for the amended.
They have to vote
For
on
the
the
Vote
amendment.
for the amendment first and then we vote on the.
So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. So now we have to have a vote on the amendment.
Right, so let's vote on the amendment. It's been long enough. There's been no, let's vote on the amendment. So roll call, please, to vote on the amendment.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Yemzau,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
Now, do you want to read the new motion with the change date? Might as well get it out of the way.
Okay. Let me change that to. I only changed it in one place. Okay, now you can refresh.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. I
You can
appreciate it.
refresh. Okay, a motion to require a board vote to switch from in-person to hybrid or virtual learning effective September 21st, with the exception of if there are 2 or more cases in a week, we will allow the superintendent to go hybrid or virtual for up to 3 days at his discretion until a special board meeting can be advertised and held.
And that motion was made by Josh and second by Josh Majeski. Roll call, please.
Okay, so it will be Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Yemzau,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
Are we good at this point for the superintendent's report? Or does somebody want to make another motion before we move any further?
Here you go.
What are we doing about the learning model?
Well, I would make a motion that we change from the hybrid learning model to in-person classrooms with the effective date. We will have that discussion with whatever date you feel that can happen. And that would be in that motion, whatever date the superintendent.
Thursday,
This Thursday?
24th,
This Thursday is return to full in-person.
Yes.
24th?
Does that include what days, if any, or partial days would be
Well, again, that,
none, none, or?
I don't think we got to that point where we decided.
I think that's a discussion that can
I
be
think we
had.
can, they have Wednesday, we can have a discussion tonight, next day or so, to kind of come up with exactly what we want to
So
do.
does the board then have to vote again to change that under what we just did?
I would say so.
Because that's less than full in person if it's more than a 2-hour delay.
Right. So, Tim, were you actually making a motion? You were just saying you would.
I am making a motion to return to school in full on Thursday.
With no planning days.
No.
So then, I think we have to discuss a little bit. I know there's a lot of teacher feedback on the planning because they're trying to plan for both in person and virtual at the same time. And I understand that's a strain on them. So my suggestion that we already had a question back on was, do we change the classes now before we get out of the first marking period to have one teacher do a virtual class, the same as they are right now? And then the others are in person, so that would sort of alleviate some of the strain. Or you leave things as they are and we try to give them more time to fix, to help with that added workload of having sort of that dual lesson plan.
I'm not sure that that's a board decision. We should, that's an admin team decision, and I think they should decide and get back to us on what their plan is to move forward.
Here's an option. What we could do is, our next meeting is the 5th of October. What we could do is go back, as Tim made a motion, go back full in person on the 24th, have a virtual day on the 2nd. That'd be a Friday, the 2nd. See how all that goes. We can have discussion and possible vote on changing the plan on the 5th, which would be facilities finance. We can call a special meeting. That's just a thought. So that would give a virtual day on Friday the 2nd.
That gives them time to put a plan together.
I like that plan.
You're saying go start on Thursday until then.
So what would our plan be for this week?
Wednesday, full virtual.
Yeah.
Hybrid tomorrow, A through L, full virtual Wednesday, full in person Thursday, Friday.
And we don't feel that it would be too much of a thing to spring on people midweek without much notice.
Well, you still, so everybody who wants to stay home still can stay home. So go live still continues.
And the Wednesday is still virtual.
Who it is being sprung on, if anyone.
I think
would be
the
teachers,
faculty.
The faculty.
And I think with giving them Wednesday to get ready for this full in person, give them some time.
And then next Friday, not this coming one, but the following one, we'll try giving them Friday as a virtual day so that they get extra planning time in building as well.
So then it would be
Well,
the
there, and
following
there,
week, Monday,
and there would
Tuesday.
be some virtual learning going on, just like we are today. There'd be the virtual classes, just say if I'm talking about elementary school, they would do a morning virtual class and then get your classrooms in and assign assignments. And then in the afternoon, they'd have some more planning time, plus office hours, if needed, if a teacher needed. That's kind of what we're doing now in the elementary school for Wednesdays.
And we would hope to remain providing that additional, whether it be a Friday or a Wednesday during this whole.
Yeah, it'd be a virtual day. It wouldn't be a planning day, it'd be a virtual day.
How have teachers responded to the planning time? Do they think it's?
Very, very receptive. They were thankful. I got many emails from last Wednesday, even up till today, was getting emails thanking us, hoping it could,
I think that's a great compromise.
And then we can revisit it on the 5th, so
Absolutely.
there will only be one virtual day. It's only 1 week, next
Right.
week, right?
Yep.
So,
And maybe at that point, you'll come back with a plan to change, to do something different or.
and that-
period of
that
time to
discussion-
where we do it, or
So before that meeting, it'd be great to have a recommendation on the things that Josh also brought up, just with the, do we go to, if we're gonna not have a virtual day, do we then consolidate to one virtual teacher, which personally, I don't think that's the way to go, but that's a discussion to have at that point, not now. I think the model that we have.
and like I said
can speak
earlier,
for some.
mainly would be an elementary, early middle school type of, well, not even, it'd be probably K-3 kind of discussion I'd have to have with the K-3 teachers and
I
look at the
think it
pros
would
and
be a
cons.
different scenario if we had people opting in and picking one for a period of time, like say, hey, you're gonna be virtual for the next 2 weeks, because then you can get an accurate count. When you don't have that information, on any given day, you could have a different number of kids. You can end up with one kid in the virtual class and a gazillion kids in the in-person class.
Yeah,
Jim, can I just suggest, like Mount Carmel is starting to do that? You have a parent in this district who's doing that. Lori Heath is doing the virtual aspect of that for Mount Carmel. That might be a contact person for you,
Okay.
or talking to Mount Carmel about how that's working for them, or she's doing like the virtual aspect, or sending that all up. If you want to investigate that option.
and again, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, I think just giving you direction, but my thought would be that, whoever says, hey, we're gonna be virtual for the foreseeable future would be the ones getting consolidated. And I think that would allow the teacher to still record their own class, so that if they have a student who has to self-quarantine for a week or is just out sick. But what would change for the teachers that have predominantly, now 4 teachers that are all in person is they're not looking and teaching to the computer anymore, but their full session is recorded for that student. If they happen to be sick for a day or again have to self-quarantine, they can go back and look at it along with the homework assignment that was sent home. but it's not a separate lesson plan for the teacher to explore at that point. So just to answer what Tony was saying, you would have a set number in the virtual class. Everybody else might have a recording of their class available if they happen to be absent, but it wouldn't be like hey, today I'm virtual, tomorrow I'm not, because you'll be at totally different places on curriculum every day. So that was my suggestion to explore.
It'd probably be different models or different scenarios based on grade level as well, because as you go into the.
And it would have to almost be staying together, in case there was kids that needed to be, say a kid had a quarantine and he had to go out into that virtual world for 14 days. You'd have to almost be on the same spot, the virtual teacher and the classroom teacher.
Yeah, and, what you said earlier about, I'm envisioning this applying to grades that don't have split up curriculum, because that's the ones that are most effective, I think. So I think predominantly something to look at for K to 3, I think is what you had suggested earlier.
That would be just thinking quickly. That's where the concern would be.
I think in the same period of time, racking your brains and coming to us with some way that we can measure the effectiveness of the progress that these learners are making. Because for every 5 concerns we get about planning time, we get 52 concerns about my child's falling behind. If there is some way that we can address that concern and see what the reality is, I think that will be important in forming some decisions going forward when we have to be hybrid again. I think we say the same things in every email. I feel bad about that. It truly is, for everyone who's weighing in, a delicate balance of risks and benefits of all different types. But I think that we really just, if we're going to be flexible with time, I think we really need to find a way to make sure that we're being effective. And if we are demonstrating that we're not, I don't think that's anybody's fault. These are uncharted waters, as I'm so tired of hearing, but they're uncharted waters. And I think that if we see we're not being effective, then the onus is on us to find a way to safely work to fix that, instead of going the entire winter status quo.
So back to the motion.
Mr. Vogt, there is one more comment. I didn't know if, I'm sorry to interrupt. There is one more comment. Would you like me to read it?
Yep, go ahead.
So the comment is from Catherine Gray of Franklin Township. I truly think hybrid is best for now. Why risk it? You guys are doing awesome with what's happening.
Thank you. So can you, I know I made the motion. Can we put that motion in policy and procedure, and when we get to it?
Nobody seconded it, so
exactly.
It just kind of dies if you move on as the president.
Well, and were we adding what he said about
That Friday.
through? So it's a motion to return to school in person effective Thursday, September 24th through.
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
I don't think you put it through.
Okay, but do you want?
You put it through?
But do
No.
you want the virtual day in there then?
Yes, just that one virtual day.
Okay.
And if we fail to take action at the next meeting, then we're full-time in person with no additional virtual days.
Right.
With the virtual day on October 2nd, correct?
Because nobody seconded it, there's no amendment.
There's nothing at this time, we'll just move on until we come back to it again.
Just come back to it. That way.
Unless somebody wants to second it quick and throw this all in the top.
Does somebody want to second it? We'll just.
We just need to make sure that we advertise for a special meeting with facilities and finance.
Wouldn't we want to second it now so that it can
No,
have time to get comments?
if we second it now, then we can't take any other action while it's on the floor under Robert's rules unless we suspend the rules. You have to either table it or vote.
President
before
can
you
make a
say
motion,
anything else.
which he did. Please,
But nobody has seconded it, so.
right, so.
move on.
But we can still do it. in
Later.
policy. Yeah.
You bring it up, you just make a motion later.
Okay, yep, that's fine. All right. Does anybody else have anything for Mr. Becker? Moving on to committee reports. Facilities, that's me. We had a discussion on event planning for sporting events. which we sort of tabled that to the activities meeting, which I'll get to that later. The other report was from the building and ground supervisor. He gave a report on the middle school doors and weight room doors have been shipped. Installation is scheduled for September 23rd. He commented on the maintenance and custodial workers working overtime and student part-time workers and what a great job they've done. And also looking at recent grads from either VOTEC or the North VOTEC to join our crew here on maintenance or custodial. That was it. So we'll move on to finance. Mr. Klebon?
Yes, bills are being paid on time, and it looks like we're running along the budget lines, and eventually, with maybe by the next meeting, Brenda and I and possibly Josh can sit down and see where we stand with the potential of ending up in the black through this coming year and the spring. And that's about it.
Any questions for Mr. Klebon?
Can Cindy come instead of Brenda?
I'll invite Cindy.
Thank you.
Who's Cindy?
You can bring your sister.
Next one is policy. Anthony?
Only policy, I do believe we reviewed and reread some of the Title IX policies, and other than that, nothing in here.
All right, VOTEC. Josh?
So we held a meeting September 15th. I was semi-virtual, so some attending virtually still. Major outcomes of that, we approved a full virtual delivery model. We did not switch the delivery model, we just approved what the model would look like if VOTEC moves to a full virtual. And then also of note, in the very near future, and I don't have the date in front of me, we will start steering committee discussions on what is the future of VOTEC for all things related to delivering and building plans and all the things that got delayed with the onset of COVID, all those discussions. And with Benton's departure, that kind of changes a lot of those discussions potentially. So that is JOC members, some faculty, and then it will be definitely open to the public for input. So anyone listening, please reach out directly to me or Drew if you have specific thoughts that you want incorporated right from the start. That's all I have.
All right, the next was activities. We held a special meeting for activities to discuss the plans for sporting events last Monday. The outcome of that event, or the outcome of that meeting, was we were going to stick to the 250 rule. Moving on to curriculum, that was canceled tonight. Negotiations of personnel.
We've not had a committee meeting for that yet, and I'm also wellness chair, and I have not heard from the wellness committee yet this school year.
And CSIU, Mr. Klebon.
CSIU is still doing virtual, and until we can get back to the in-house meetings up there in Montandon, Milton area where their headquarters are at, there's not a lot to report that's going on there. I get some emails from the CSIU secretary, Amy Flieger, and there's really not much to report on what's going on there.
All right, moving on to minutes and invoices. At this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve items A and B, minutes and invoices.
So moved.
Motion by Josh,
Second.
second by Cindy. Roll call vote, please.
Hold on.
Oh.
Some of the minutes included 2 meetings that I was not a member for.
Analysis.
Would we be able to move the meeting minutes as 2 items and then invoices separately?
Did they vote on them or not, Carl?
Yeah, you can vote even though you weren't there. You can read the minutes and vote.
You all right with that?
I mean, it's not an earth-shattering thing, just I can't
Can't
really vote
You want
yes
to abstain?
to the veracity of them. And, you know, I could just abstain for the whole group of them, but.
Are they allowed to abstain?
Yes. Yeah, but it's not an ethics thing you're filling out. It's just that I'm abstaining because I wasn't there, therefore, but they have a constitutional right to abstain.
We don't have a quorum.
Yeah, they don't
All
want
four
to
of
pass
us do the
it.
same thing. Right.
So one of you has to,
Or we could just motion them separately.
or it could wait till next meeting when we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum?
If, are you gonna vote, Cindy? Or you're gonna? Only because she voted last time, I was just asking, because if you do, we have 5.
Yeah.
All right, so you want them separated is what you're saying?
That'd be the easiest thing.
Okay. All right, at this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Greg. Roll call, please.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Emsal,
Abstain.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Abstain.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski.
Yes.
Okay, so then we have.
At this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Motion.
I'll second Greg.
Motion by Greg, second by Josh. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Emsal,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski.
Yes.
9-0, or 8-0, I'm sorry.
All right, at this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve items fiscal, A, B, and C.
So moved.
Motion by Brianna,
Second.
second by Josh. Any discussion on A, B, or C? Roll call, please.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Emsal,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini.
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
All right, moving on to items personnel. Are we okay to do those as a block also?
I'd like to have item A up for discussion.
Okay, so you want that one pulled out?
Yes.
All right, at this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve items B, C, D, E, F, and G. Do we have a motion?
Is that Josh?
Josh, second.
I'll second that.
The other Josh. Any discussion on B, C, D, E, F, or G? Roll call, please.
Eli Emsal,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Greg Klebon,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt.
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
Okay, at this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve personnel item A, Assistant Ski Club Advisor Shannon Troutman. Do we have a motion? I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Tim, second by Eli. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Greg.
As you know, last year we had a increase in our workman's comp premium because the ski advisor was injured in a skiing accident while on a ski trip with the ski club. That exposure cost us, that claim actually cost caused our workman's comp premium to go up. I renegotiated it down a few $1,000s with Harry. Now we're gonna have, it looks like 2 skiers that may be going to the slopes with the ski club. I'm hoping that if they do ski, they do it at their own risk and sign a waiver, liability waiver, that they're on their own if they're skiing and they're not going to be covered under the workman's comp policy through a school district, or stay off the slopes.
Is it possible for them to sign a waiver of such sort?
No, I mean, Denise can check with your carrier, but the carriers, I don't know how you'd say you're not total workers' comp if it's an extension of school. I would just tell them to take skiing lessons. You know,
Can we, especially because they're employing. The second part of what Greg said was direct them to not be on the slopes.
Exactly. That limits their risk. That's a dangerous sport.
We're paying them.
A ski club advisor to be skiing. It's an extension of the school district. She's there with the school kids. It's covered under the workman's comp, of course. They paid the claims for the injury that occurred. And I'm just looking for a solution for that not to occur again this year, because in skiing you can get injured very quickly. And I don't want to see our workman's comp rate go up or get it canceled, because we're paying a pretty decent premium right now for workman's comp, and I don't think we can afford a $10,000 or $20,000 rate increase if it hits our workman's comp claims insurance again.
It directs the ski club advisor and assistant advisor to stay off the slopes, and they're just there for supervision, and they choose to ski anyway. What happens then?
What if we just make clear that the stipend is for the time it takes to leave the school, arrive at the lodge, and then get back on the bus at the lodge and come back to the school?
No, because they're responsible for those kids
for the students while they're
there.
I would worry if you took the skiing out of it, that you wouldn't have any people to
I,
volunteer.
is it even possible to do what I just said? If the answer is no, then it's.
I don't even think it is. I mean, if it's approved ski, you know, and they decide, the hell with it, I'm gonna do it either way, I still think.
I've had teachers go on field trips and be injured in workers' comp things at Gettysburg. I mean, it could happen anywhere. Believe me, this teacher didn't want that to happen. But it's part of doing business.
No, you can't compare a trip to Gettysburg with coming down a ski slope, Denise, I'm sorry.
Well, they were in Devil's Den, so.
You're talking about ice in the Poconos. You're not talking about snow. You're skiing on ice, and you're coming down about 20, 30 miles an hour. There's a lot of room for injury there, and I don't want to see the school district's workman's comp go up. And as far as being there, there's ski patrol on the slopes. If any of the kids get hurt, the ski patrol's right there. The advisors should be on the bus up and the bus back and in the lodge in the event there is an accident and the ski patrol brings any of the students down that are injured. I don't see a need for the ski club advisors to be out skiing.
You want to let Denise check with the carriers, double, and then you'll have your answer. It's not like you're gonna ski next week. You can have an answer by October 5th. Table.
I moved to table.
Second.
Okay, can I add one thing here? That we erroneously approved a different teacher for this position.
Correct, it looks like Boris.
Yes, and it was just an error. She would never applied for the position. How we got her name,
I'll
I
make a
don't know.
motion to unapprove Andrea Boris as assistant ski instructor.
Well, then I think we would also need to unapprove the head ski person, if that were the case.
So there's a motion and a second to table this, which we need to vote on first.
Yeah.
All right, who made the?
I made the motion, Eli seconded it.
You can do all those in favor. You don't have to do a roll call on this.
Okay. Josh made, Eli said, okay. Okay,
Carl says it can be a voice vote if you want.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Moving on to policy and programs. As you can see it updated in there. Change of superintendent authorization, which we already voted on,
yeah, that one we did.
and return to in-person learning, which I made that motion. I'll pull that out unless you guys want to vote as these as a block, which would be A, B, and D. We already voted on C. You guys want to vote them as a block, or do we want D out of there?
Do it separate.
Separate. So at this time, the chair is looking for a motion to approve items A, B, A and B.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Greg first, Josh second. Roll call.
Do you want to do an all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? 8-0. At this time, the chair is looking for a motion to return to in-person learning. And I'll make that motion.
Next one, Jim.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Josh Hoagland. Any discussion?
The only thing I'll point out is we'll probably get a lot of feedback in this period of time between now and October 5th on the public's opinion of this new thing that we've discussed and this new approach. So I look forward to revisiting this on October 5th.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 8-0. Any board comment?
Just a reminder, we need a executive session at the end here again.
Right, and that is for personnel
And negotiation.
and negotiations.
And you're not coming back, right?
No. So recognition of the public, is there any comments?
Mr. Vogt, there is one more comment right now, and I'll double check after I read it, see if there's any more. It is another comment from Michelle Richards, Ralpho Township. Why do we have to change how virtual works if it's working for those kids doing it? Why not ask the parents who have their kids in virtual? We chose SoCo Live for important reasons. I feel like you're making decisions to change the structure based on comments of those who were doing hybrid, not those who have been virtual since the onset. And let me just double check. At this point, it looks like that is all the comments, questions I have.
I think that last comment was directly referring to the consolidate
The idea of
all into one virtual.
We did not decide to do
No,
that.
we were just discussing it as a possibility, and we'll revisit that on October 5th.
I don't think that would, I guess that might conceivably change how SoCo Live is operating, but it would still principally be the same with one of our teachers running the classroom.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be necessarily the teacher that those people thought they were getting, which may affect that decision. So I can
So
understand.
just clarify, no change has
You
been
want to talk
made.
about the athletics?
What about,
You said there was going to be a vote coming up and for next week, our next home game.
that's not,
Okay,
that's not till, let's,
2 weeks.
they're obviously, hopefully they're gonna override that veto, so it'll be a new point, we should be able to let in what we want,
Okay,
which we had an original
right,
plan of what, 556?
right.
So let's discuss that, we'll discuss that at facilities and finance, because that would be,
After the game. It would be after. If they override the veto, or don't override the veto, any decision. We'll have a game before we'll have the 5th. We have a home game before the 5th. We have away this week, and then Coach right then home.
It's actually Thursday now,
It's Thursday
so it'd be October 1st.
with Loyalsock.
That's
Yeah.
home. That's a home game. So that's before the
next meeting.
When did I say he was voting on that?
Tuesday?
Next.
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
Is this one now?
Right, so that, we gotta hope that they're gonna override his veto and we move forward. What, are you looking for direction if we move forward?
Well, I'm just looking if they don't override the veto, which could happen, right?
So we have approximately, we try to give 2 tickets per cheerleader and football parent this past home game.
Right.
But if he overrides it, we were looking at giving the away team 2 tickets and allowing them to bring parents, which got us to like five
something, yeah.
556, I think the number was.
That's, the band would still be before, not
No, I think that included the band
Yeah, we
and
bring the
band.
band in.
Yep, that brings
band and band.
band, the cheerleaders, the cheerleader parents, and 2 tickets for the opposing team
Players.
players.
We wouldn't allow their band or their cheerleaders.
Right, but we would allow our band, our cheerleaders, their parents, 2 tickets, and the opposing team 2 tickets.
So I guess my personal opinion would be if the veto gets overridden, proceed with that plan. If it doesn't get overridden, I'd be comfortable doing what we did on the prior game. Doing what actually happened.
Do you need a motion for that or not? Are we good?
I don't think so.
Does anybody want to say differently? That's the consensus, yes?
I'm fine with that.
Do it just like Friday night.
Yep. Or
the less restrictive.
less restrictive, if they overrule that, we'll go to the, whatever you had that plan, when you had a number.
Yep.
Whatever was on that slide. Anybody else?
Yes, I was gonna ask a question along these lines, because obviously things could change at any point. I didn't know if you needed a special meeting or, board approval. So I guess from what you're saying now, we kind of have a plan in place if it gets opened up. It could get opened up without that vote also, with this federal thing, from what I'm hearing, where his mandates could be pretty much no longer carrying any weight? Or is it just this vote that we're looking at if this vote goes through?
I think we're waiting for the vote to go through. I think because everybody around the PIAA, the league, people are saying stay with the 250. We're gonna have to stay with the 250 unless the vote, the 25-250.
Well, regardless, if it gets opened up one way or another, then we're just going with the plan that you just kind of went over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, I'll throw it, because I'm pushing to be open with the public, some of the thinking on that is, even if we could legally potentially do something different, if we go against what the PIAA is recommending, our conference or the people, the last thing we really want to do is say, hey, let's just go 500 and have the governor shut down sports altogether. And now we ruined the whole season. So we're trying to get as many parents in as possible without risking
Everyone's season.
ruining your season.
Oh, yeah, no, I was referring to either if this law gets passed or if somehow through this federal pressure, he says, well, it's up to the schools, if it changes and there's no either recommendation, mandate or whatever from him, we have a plan to move forward, because obviously it could happen 2 days before a game or whatever, and, to have a meeting.
No, I don't think we need to have a meeting.
No.
Plan set, we're good.
Does that plan sound reasonable to you, Coach?
Yeah, I mean,
I know we discussed it before, I just want to make sure you're still with that.
And I just want to thank you guys for allowing the cheerleaders. That was very appreciative from all of them. And
All right.
No other public comment?
No more comment, Mr. Davis?
That is correct, Mr. Vogt and Mr. Becker.
All right,
To adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? 8-0. Meeting adjourned. Greg, we're sticking on here